looks different. Are they going to be able to make the college football playoff, Ryan? What do you think?
Is a Pac-12 team going to make the college football playoff? Well, that's not only, I think, the hardest accomplishment that a Pac-12 team can make. I'll give you a list of requirements that I'll have for a Pac-12 team to make the playoff. Okay, number one, they got to go undefeated, 7-0, no questions asked. Number two, they have to be ranked at the time of the season's start or perhaps receiving votes. Okay, so that cuts down the contenders about 2/3. Okay, next you got to win the conference, so that leaves one Pac-12 team. And just to add difficulty to it, you got to win every game by at least double digits. And then at that point, I think there's a chance because let's face it, I don't think Pac 12 stands a chance to get into the playoff, even if they meet all those requirements.
hmm First, I just kind of want to kind of poke at a few of those. So the whole undefeated thing, I think this year, yes, they have to go undefeated. But if you look at it, there hasn't been an undefeated Pac-12 champion in the 6 years of college football playoff. A Pac-12 champion has been able to get in with one loss, and I think that's more directly related to the success of the Big 12. If you look at in those 6 years, you have two Pac-12 champion teams that have made it, and 12 champion teams that have made it. They've all been Oklahoma. So that fourth spot has almost been directly tied to whoever wins that conference. So if the Big 12 struggles and has a two-loss team win it, I think that does open the door for a one-loss Pac-12 team to make it if whoever that team loses to is able to get revenge in that Pac-12 championship game. If they lose a crossover game and are able to come back and beat that team, I think the committee really looks at that. And another thing I want to look at is the they have to be ranked right now or receiving votes. The college football playoff ranking is not the AP poll. They wait a few weeks to do it. So we've seen teams like they rank teams once they've seen them on the field, not based on last season, not based on anything else. So I don't think a team has to be ranked right now in order to do it. I think that all they have to do is be in that first college football ranking, and we've seen teams that have been ranked kind of in random places and that make it. So I think that there's a lot that can be done. I think obviously we're in agreement here that the Pac-12 has to probably go undefeated. The first step is the Pac-12 to put a successful team on the field. Obviously they're not going to make it in if they beat each other up like usually. So I think we're in agreement on that, but I think the rest of the kind of the issues and the points is where we differ. And if you're watching right now in the chat, let us know what you think. This is a huge kind of contentious topic right now. A lot of people are talking about it, so let us know.
Well, Cody, it's not only can the Pac-12, compete with each other without banging each other up, it's also the strength of the schedule. Okay, we are not only facing each other in the conference, so whoever's going to play Oregon, if you beat Oregon, then yeah, your odds of making the playoff just skyrocketed. But USC was going to play Alabama. That without a game like that, then without a game outside of the Pac-12 for any Pac-12 team, I don't see how a Pac-12 team could even contend to be considered to go into that playoff. I mean, you have teams like UCF over down there in Florida, who throughout 2017 and 2018 almost went undefeated across 2 seasons until they lost to last year's national champion LSU. So a team that went practically undefeated for 2 straight seasons and lost to an outstanding SEC program. This is the thing that I strongly dislike about college football, and it's just the way that it is. But the moment you lose a game, they kick you right back down. But the moment Alabama loses a game, it's just one game. Well, the one game rule doesn't work for everybody. The moment that a Pac-12 team loses, you can kiss the college football playoff goodbye.
I think there's a high likelihood that happens, but I think I've heard a lot of people talk about this topic. Almost every other Dash Sports show since Thursday has touched on this, and I think a lot of people are focusing on the wrong thing. A lot of people are focusing on, is 7 games enough? Can a Pac-12 team make enough of a statement in 7 games to make it in? But I think that the problem here isn't that, it's what happens around it. I wrote about this for Sports Pac-12. You can check out my column there. and check out all the other columns that the Dashboards hosts have written. But the Pac-12 is going to need help, and we've seen some of that help start just last week. Mississippi State beat LSU; they were a contender. Oklahoma lost. That puts them in a really tough spot. So I think if we're looking at this is going to be a weird year. We've seen upsets already. So if this is a trend and people are getting upset all across the board, that opens it up for a Pac-12 team to make it. If every single team loses once, then you can be a one-loss team that makes it in. I don't think we're going to see the perfect seasons that we usually do because this year is just really messed up. So, some of the things I talked were, there's four playoff spots, and it just at how it plays out, how it has played out. Really, three of them are locked in, and I bet we can agree on this. You have Clemson, who is probably the most talented team. They're playing in the ACC that, other than themselves and the inclusion of Notre Dame this year, is pretty weak. So you can probably lock them in. Same with Ohio State. That team is incredibly talented, barely lost to Clemson last year to make it to the championship game. And is a little more competitive, but that Ohio State team is really good. So those teams are locked in. And then whoever wins the SEC. Every year, whoever wins the SEC has made it in. So those are locked in. And so really that fourth spot comes down to a Pac-12 champion, a Big 12 champion, or a one-loss SEC team. So you're really only competing against those two possibilities. So if a Big 12 champion can get ruled out, you're bringing it down to 50-50. And, if the SEC can start to beat each other up, if Mississippi off a few more upsets, if Auburn's able to, beat Alabama and lose somewhere else, then I think it's not going to be the case of, oh, can the Pac-12 beat out these other teams? I think it's going to be the case of these other teams kind of played themselves out of the spot, and a Pac-12 champion can emerge from this group and can take that last spot, because it has happened before.